Finance Personnel Friday.
Yep.
So I'm setting my alarm for 1 hour. That's it, that's all we're talking. I'm not officially on Facebook yet, right?
You might be usually around the minute mark of those things. You're live now.
Hello, everybody out there in Facebook land. We are live from the Ashtabula City Council, Community Development, Economic Development, Parks and Recreation Committee. Oops, that was making that noise on my phone. All standing committee meetings shall be open to the public. The public shall only be permitted to speak at the will of the presiding officer. Members of council are welcome to attend committee meetings which they are not a member and are permitted to participate, but shall have no voting privileges. Please silence your mobile devices. Is the recording on?
Yes, it is.
So we'll call the meeting to order. Will you do roll call?
Ms. Haynes,
Here?
Ms. Harris, Mr. Roskovics,
Here.
Mr. Timonier,
Here.
and we have Mr. Tucker from Parks and Recreation Board. Thank you for filming today. And our scheduled guest today is Karen Fagnoli from the Greater Ashtabula Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we're going to get started with you, Karen.
Well, first I want to thank you for inviting us to chat regarding the state of businesses in Ashtabula post-COVID initiation, I guess. This last couple months has been really a challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge for businesses, both small and large. And the chamber actually is one of those little nuclei to help businesses stay connected, because one of the purposes of the chamber is really to connect businesses through networking and through newsletters and making sure that we keep everybody in touch with each other. And one of the things that happened right after the shutdown, or right before the shutdown, is our team really did, I think, a fabulous job. Greg and Christy really stayed connected and did a lot of social media and gave a lot of information out to our membership. We also stay connected. We do our Good Evening Ashtabula, which is normally a kind of happy hour kind of thing. And we continue to do that at the same time with the happy hour kind of mantra. And then we do our Good Morning Ashtabula, which is a pretty much, a little more of an agenda, and we spotlight one of our businesses. And then we all give our little, 30-second commercial on what's happening with our businesses. But the last several months, it's how are we all doing? And I'm going to talk a little bit about not just being part of the chamber, but being a business that got shut down, and how I can help other businesses continue to survive and maybe even thrive. So one of the things, there was a lot of talk in the beginning of we needed to pivot, especially when the restaurants and bars closed. That was the word. How are you going to pivot? And one of the key comments was cash is king. You've got to keep your cash, and you've got to know what you're doing with your cash. And so to recommend to businesses today, because we could get another round of, I hope we don't get shut down again, but we know we need to make sure we're very, very cautious. And so people must have a budget They must look at their numbers. They must, the two things that in the, businesses that we're in, we have the Lake House Inn and Crosswinds Grill and the winery and spa, is our labor and cost of goods sold. Those are the two variable costs that you have to look at every single day of every single week. And we all know that, but once COVID ran our life, it's very important that businesses really look at what are they bringing in and what are they spending their money on. And clearly, it's employees and cost of goods. But with that said, it's a real two-edged sword, because you want to make sure, and for our business, we're very locally focused, and so we want to spend our money with other local businesses. And so we've really had to look at who really can give us the best product at the best price, which is a challenge sometimes. And it's just really, really important that businesses look at everything that they're purchasing. And then, along with that, making sure that their employees are safe, because every business needs to make sure that when their employees come on site in the morning, that they are prepared, that they're not ill, that they've taken their temperature or we take it for them, that they finish, the assessment to make sure that they don't have any of the symptoms of COVID. That's huge for, small businesses and large businesses. And then keeping everything clean. It's, when we were in the middle of, the daily, 2 o'clock with Governor DeWine, the simple things of washing your hands. And, people kind of like, well, of course. Well, I'm also a healthcare provider. I'm a retired nurse. And I remember, working with physicians who didn't do that. And, I worked for Ashtabula, Geneva, the east side of the Cleveland Clinic over my years as a nurse. And the best thing that ever happened was then they did the foam at the doorway. And it was a huge, huge deal with Dr. Cosgrove, who was the CEO of the Cleveland Clinic, spending time telling people to wash their hands. And that is really, so important, that you're washing your hands, you're washing your equipment, in the restaurant business, in the hospitality business, you're washing everything. We spun our business. We spend so much more time, cleaning rooms, doing all of the linens. We're doing things that are, that will now be standard everywhere, whereas historically, places, hospitality places didn't clean everything every day. You cleaned it, the spots, the areas that were the high touch. Now you've got to make sure that people are really safe. So it really kind of does my heart a little good, as being that healthcare provider for so many years, and having my family say, Mom, you're just too corporate here. You're too into the hospital stuff. But the reality of life is, if everybody would really just take that extra step and make sure everything is clean, and the best place to do it is starting right there. So every business has to do that. And then we talk about the masks, and oh my gosh. And then the reality of life is, in a restaurant situation on the line, it's a danger, when it's very, very hot. So we have that wing, the yin and the yang of, okay, when it's too hot, they don't wear their mask. And when it isn't, they do. And I'm the mom of making sure everybody has their mask on. And of course, we have, young adults who wear their mask like this. And it's not going to help. You got to keep everything covered. So we, as the leaders of our businesses, must be that example, and we must support each other. And any business person, when you go to a business, you really need to follow the rules so that we can all be safer. Other things for businesses, it's just talking to each other. I remember during the time when the non-essentials, were closed, and even today, non-essentials are not being, utilized as well as they could and should, because people are concerned. I can give you a very good example. When we reopened, and we made the decision to, when they closed the restaurants and the bars, we chose to close our inn and the spa, because if it wasn't safe enough for people to go eat, how could we say it was safe enough, to come stay with us? And the inn was an essential business, but we chose to close it because we wanted to keep our employees safe. And it was really interesting is that the day after the restaurant was closed, we had a couple people staying with us at the inn, and they wanted to do a spa day. And that was the day that I said, we can't do this anymore. And actually, I was really with Jane at your place and said, I think we're going to close tomorrow because it is just unsafe for our employees. And here we are. How many months? I never did I think it would be months that we would be closed down. But it was safer, for all of us. Now, the government did help us. I think most of us are recipients of the PPP and or the EIDL. And so that really helped us breathe and, moving into when we opened. And we opened with a bang because we thought we'd probably be 50% occupied in our inn. And we've been at least 90, 95 to 100% up until this week. And I think people are really, because we have people that, we had to cancel their reservations in March and April and May. And so they're starting to come back and they're starting to say, no, I think I need to wait. So this is really the first week that we are seeing people at the last second say, you know what, I think it's unsafe. So what do we have to do as a business? We have to make sure that we can keep them whole and keep us whole. And so we have to really, again, modify how we do our cancellation policies and make sure that we can allow them to come back at a later time, because people still want to get away. But we also need to support our suppliers. But then our suppliers need to support us, and it's real tough, because when you're in the middle of that chain, we can't, there was a weekend that we couldn't get Bud Light to save our soul. Or White Claw, you can't even get it. It's just amazing. It's like the toilet paper thing right now in the alcohol business, in the beer and spirits, you just don't know. It's just very, very interesting. And then even with our food, and then of course I saw recently, where was I? I was at CVS the other day, and they finally have plenty of hand sanitizer, so that's a good thing. But there's just stuff that you think, okay, we'll get potatoes, and maybe we will, and maybe we won't, or get fish, maybe we will, and maybe we won't. We can't get fresh walleye because of whatever. The reason now is that, and it makes sense, that the water's too hot, the air is too hot, so the fish are going way too low, and then when they go to get netted, by the time they pull the nets out, they're dead. So it's just that kind of stuff that the consumer takes for granted, that, oh yeah, we can get walleye anywhere. Well, because the ODNR and whoever said, oh yeah, this is going to be the best year for walleye. Well, they didn't realize that it was going to be like 90 degrees for how many weeks without any rainfall. So it is really interesting with that. So in the nutshell, it's just talking to each other, making sure that we stay connected. And that's where the chamber is really, really helpful, I think, to businesses, is just making sure that people know that they can chat and share their experiences and maybe find things that they need. And people really need to know that they've got to keep their cash really close and know where their money's going, because it's going to be a long winter. It's going to be a really long winter for all of us. So does that answer your questions?
Thank you, Karen.
Sure.
Does anyone have any questions for Karen?
I do get, What about the loans from the government?
Uh-huh.
The grants?
Uh-huh.
Has the chamber been involved in that, informing their members
Oh,
about
absolutely.
those and
Yeah.
preparing for those?
Oh, absolutely. The chamber was very active, and it wasn't just the Ashtabula Chamber, Conneaut, Eastern Lake County. Some of, Sherrod Brown and Dave Joyce, had the town hall meetings, and we made sure, Greg did a wonderful job at making sure that people were aware and making sure that they had the calls. And then sending the information back, because we do a weekly newsletter, and we're always putting things in there to make sure, what people need. Because that was really huge, in the beginning, and then they had the second, windfall of monies. But that first week, people knew that they had to, figure it out, so that they were part of, of receiving those funds. But yes, the chamber was very, very active in that.
And now I see, like California, certain Texas, certain parts of, they're starting to go back to close down.
Correct.
Because we haven't, and Ohio seems to be taking this county by county approach.
Right.
I'm imagining, I don't know what your thoughts, I'm imagining that may not last, and it may have to become a state by state thing. What do you think, and how are we, our businesses, prepared for that?
Well, our businesses need to be prepared to make sure that if we do get closed down again, that we can't just sit and go, oh my. I will be surprised if it's a whole statewide, because the different counties have different different things. Do we get concerned with all the people that come to Geneva on the Lake? Absolutely. I remember connecting with JP Ducro before this all started and said, can we put signs to keep people away? Because I was really concerned when we reopened. And he looked at me like I had three heads. But the reality of life is there are people that don't get it. And I think we as business owners need to set that example and say, no, look, this is serious. And maybe you don't know anyone that has died, but somebody else has. And do you want to wait until you have a loved one die before that happens? Whether, people believe that this is, hype or not, it's real. And we just all have to be those role models. I'd love to see more and more people, wear masks. We do pretty good. When people come into our inn, they're pretty good, but then once they get comfortable, but, to give you an example, with the whole social distance, and it's all about the 6 feet, and making sure that you don't spray on people, and you don't realize, and there's been a lot of stuff going on recently with the Petri dishes, and when you're talking with and without the mask. It's just really important that, if you can decrease that risk. And, a lot of people that are regular people that come to Geneva on the Lake are staying home. But I don't know where these people are coming from, because it has been packed. And today when I was driving through, it did my heart good that there were more and more people wearing their masks, which was good.
The mask thing is, I noticed, because like myself, I'm very conscious. I won't go in certain places
Right.
if I see a lot of people without masks,
Uh-huh.
or the owners are lax, or the people in the store don't have masks waiting on me and so forth. But then we're talking about making, encouraging a mask mandate, and then you'll see people, well, I'm not going to shop around here anymore. So it's
I know, it is.
It's a
It's
double-edged
it
sword for the
really
business
is.
owners.
It
You gotta
really,
feel for 'em.
it really, really is. And I think if we just role model, because I think it's that peer pressure. If
Yeah.
you're the only one with a mask, and I'm sure all of us have done that, if you're the only one with the mask at Giant Eagle, it's like, oh, why am I doing this? But the first time someone coughs right next to you, I mean, one of the best things, and let's look at how we have really changed business. And someone said to me the other day, wow, why didn't we think of this before, of having only one-way aisles in the grocery stores, so people aren't, bumping into each other. But the reality of life is, if we can all be role models, I think it'll just make a difference, and the peer pressure will do the right thing. Now, it's interesting is, we still don't know what's going to happen with the schools. And will the kid, like for a Geneva on the Lake business owner, are we losing our kids August 1st? Are we losing them August 15th? Are we going to lose them after Labor Day? I sure hope we lose them after Labor Day because, we'll see. And then, the other piece that really, a lot of businesses have struggled is that $600 kick, that for unemployment. Now, that will go away, I think it's next week. So I think we'll see people wanting to go to work. We'll see, but they probably saved it all up. What we also are seeing, though, because of that kick, people are spending money. I don't know where I was recently, that there's a place that sells kayaks, and they get 30 in a week, and before they get the new shipment in, they're gone. So people are spending money on stuff. We'll see.
Thank you, Karen.
Sure thing.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
thanks for having me.
Yes. All right. Mr. Timoneer, you're up with the city manager report.
Thank you. I'll just touch on a few things that were mentioned during that report. My mask is kind of restrictive, so I'm going to take it down for a second here. One of the things that you mentioned, Mr. Roskovich, about the county by county, I do think that is probably going to stick in Ohio, just based on what the conference calls we're having with ODH and the conference calls we're having with the county itself. It is very different in the particular areas. Sadly, what I think it's based on is just hospital capacity at the most. So if your hospitals can handle it, then it's almost like you're saying go out there and get sick, and until the time that the hospitals can't handle it, then we're going to throttle back a little bit. And sadly, from the beginning of the shutdowns, that was my feeling that that is what all the shutdowns were about, was just ramping up hospitals to get ventilators in, to get beds in, to get PPE in, protective equipment in, so that things could open back up, and if there was the waves, people could be treated. One of the fears, though, that we all do have, and as Mrs. Fagnelli expressed, when you see counties that are going to these red or eventually purple levels, and I'm sure we will see that and see those lockdowns in those counties, what our fear is people from those counties will start looking at the areas where it is quote-unquote safer, like us in yellow or those in red, and start traveling to our communities to go out to dinner or to go out to whatever, and you just don't know. We're finding, especially with a lot of these young people that are testing, and having positive results, they're asymptomatic, so they don't even know they have it. They're not showing any signs of it, but are shedding a virus. So that is something that we are concerned about. We're all very concerned about what's going to happen with kids going back to school, not only on start date, but what does it mean for the kids if they're doing it virtually, if they're doing it in person. I believe there is a conference called this week with all the superintendents and the health departments to discuss this. Some of the districts have announced when their starting dates will be. Some of them are still holding back. Honestly, I think they're going to have a plan in place, but depending on how the rest of July and the beginning of August goes, those plans might be for naught. We have seen some plans where the older kids, high school kids, are doing 100% virtual. These aren't in this county yet. I don't think anybody's really revealed any of their plans, but I think I saw Columbus City School District has said their 9 through 12 will be all virtual. I believe it's like 6 through 8 will be a combination of virtual and in person, and then the younger kids will be all in person, but then they're going to take the high school buildings and spread all the kids out into those classrooms to keep that distancing, but that raises a whole bunch of other problems. How are you going to get all the teachers to have lesser class sizes? I know in our city schools, you're talking at the high school of 35, 40 kids per class. How do you get down to the 10 if that's the case, or make it a more manageable number? What happens if one kid in that class tests positive? Does the the whole class go? Does the teacher then go? I mean, there's just so many things that have to be figured out in this. The other thing that you mentioned, Mr. Roskovich, was, and I kind of do the same thing. If I walk into a place and I don't see a lot of people with masks on, I don't make a big stink about it. I just choose to either go back at a later time or I don't go back. I think the issue is going to become, or I think the issue with that is now people like you and I who are just like, well, you know, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm just going to take care of myself. Whereas you have the non-mask believers, when they're asked to do something like that or a store requires it, they like to yell and scream and jump up and down. Well, let's reverse that. What if the people that believed in the mask were yelling and screaming and jumping up and down rather than just, I think there is a lot more people that do exactly what you and I do than there are people that I'm not wearing a mask, so I'm not going to your business. I got in a little debate with someone. It was hilarious. One portion of Facebook they had on their page, I was out somewhere and nobody's wearing their mask, nobody's this, nobody's that, would you please wear your mask? And then on the day that they were talking about and released the plan to go back to school, where the recommendation is all the kids wear the mask, throwing a tantrum that I'm not going to make my kids wear a mask, I'll just keep them home. I said, well, you know what, great, keep them home. I'd prefer that so that my child isn't exposed. So, you know, pick a lane. I think people just at this point like to argue, and just, you know, I'm not going to follow the rules or whatever. This is common sense, people. You know, I will share a personal story. My son right now is in quarantine because he is a contact of a confirmed positive. It is extremely stressful right now. We don't think anything's going to come of it. We're being very cautious of this whole process, but as we pieced everything together and were contacted, yes, we're gonna do the quarantine thing, and we're gonna now try doing that with a 14-year-old. It's nuts, but that's how seriously we're taking this stuff, and just 10-12 minutes around someone can lead to 14 days of your child in quarantine. So you know, I'm a believer in this stuff. It's sad that we have to say believe and non-believe, but it's out there, folks, and what we're seeing now is a rise in communal spread. It's not in congregate living anymore. We still have our cases in congregate living, but those have the nursing homes and prison staffs, everything, are doing a tremendous job controlling that and keeping COVID out of those places. It is communal spread now. It's just out there. So just ask everybody to continue to remain cautious. You know, let's try to stay at level 1 as long as we can. And you know, the other comment that was mentioned about kayaks and things like that, people are very much enjoying the outdoors. I've been on the trail quite a bit. The bike trail, you see a lot of people out there. Place where I get my bike serviced hasn't had bikes on the rack in probably 3 months. They've just been sold out. Where you go to Walmart, you see that too. There's nothing on the rack. You try to buy stuff online, and you know, it's months of ship dates. So people are getting into fitness, which is great. People are exploring the county, which is great. And it's a little bit easier to socially distance doing that kind of stuff than heading down to, you know, restaurants and bars. But we do want people to enjoy that as well. Conversations we're having with businesses is takeout is still doing strong. It's difficult for them to hit the numbers and bring back all the employees that they need to because their capacity is limited, and we get that. But that's where we're going to know at the close of business in July for the city what the real financial impact is on our income tax. Tomorrow is the last day for income tax filing and payment, and we'll also get our second quarter withholdings from the companies as well at this month. So that will include all this time where people have been laid off and let go and things like that. So we watch those numbers daily. We're watching the unemployment stats, which, yes, things are opening up, things are getting better. We're a lot of our businesses are suppliers to those ones that are opening up, so it's one of those things that as they get going, okay, fine, we can start supplying that chain to them more. We're not at that point yet. Some of them are starting to ramp up that they're saying, hey, we're gonna be taking orders from you in this date or that date, so starting to bring people back. Other businesses have totally shifted, markets, into sanitizers or into different things, making these plexiglass things. You know, so they've been able to keep people employed doing a different business, but that can't last forever. You gotta get back into your bread and butter, so, that's kind of where everything is standing, and of course, like I've mentioned to you guys several times, we're still waiting on, guidance and hopefully changes to the CARES Act so that we can get our services back up to par as well. Pretty much all I have, unless you have any other questions.
Does anyone else have any questions? No? All right, Earl, can you multitask?
Okay, I was not in attendance at the meeting last week. That was my birthday, and my children are up from Georgia, so I spent the day with
You
them.
can pull the mask down. I think you're far enough away. It's easier to understand.
So, several things were noted as far as Walnut Beach. The bollards still need to be replaced. And, Mr. Manager, did we ever get an estimate on extending those?
I believe we did, and actually, I think we did replace those bollards. They've been hit again.
Lovely.
I know that we did pick up bollards when we also replaced that light. I know that we picked up some stuff, and we've also noticed that a rope has been cut. That we
On the
have to-
circle, right.
Yeah, around the circle that we have to repair as well.
The lifeguards are requesting no lifeguard beyond this point. Evidently, the sign has been stolen again.
I think we did take care of that, but I'll double check.
Okay. They did have, the other request was they wanted to move the social distancing sign. It's blocking their view of each other to be able to communicate. Other than that, Trevor said that there was a rescue on the 6th of July. A 16-year-old lifeguard did it, and everything came out fine. So that was good. I have not spoken to Mr. Buckmaster to see what the concession stand is like. I haven't been down there. And kudos to the Lakeside football team. They did a cleanup down at Walnut Beach. As a matter of fact, they've been all over the city and the northern portion of the county doing projects for both the elderly and the community. Point Park needs some more weed control, and the garbage cans need to be emptied more often. Caden Park is also weed control. The Mr. Bean asked me if we could have Public Works burn all the weeds in the parking, or not in the parking, but in the basketball court, and then maybe crack seal it to prevent them from coming back up again. That would make that court much more usable. Julie Wayman from the My Neighborhood Cooperative is going to be seeking volunteers to try and do some more weed whacking out there. Try and take some of the pressure off of the parks crews. The pawpaw trees that we installed got run over by ATVs, and so they are gone. And I don't think they're going to want to replace them at this point. Smithfield, they noted that some of the bumper blocks from the parking spaces have either been shifted or have disappeared. And that's really about it right now. Do we have any word on when they might be starting the tennis court project?
I have not heard yet when they're going to start that.
Okay. Other than that, I know we're going to be trying to work with Mr. McKee and his I'm an Amazing Ashtabula group to see if we can't get the painting done on the concession stand doors and trim. That would be it.
Does anybody have any questions for Earl? No? Okay, thank you. On to miscellaneous business. I would like to make a motion in this committee. I would like to make a motion for a resolution of appreciation to Wisdom Davis. Wisdom Davis organized a peaceful protest in downtown Ashtabula. And actually, Stacy's already drawn up the resolution. Do you want me to read it?
If you want to, but it's, it was started and not really 100% reviewed and looked at, so there might be other changes that you might want to make.
Okay, then we'll hold off. So I want to make that motion. Anybody wants to second it?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. So then we'll bring this to council?
Yeah, and if you want me to work on different things, please get me those ideas of different paragraphs that should be in there, or things that should be talked about.
Okay. We can do that. Is there anything else in miscellaneous that anybody wants to bring up? All right. Our next meeting is Tuesday, August 11th. The guest speaker will be the Chief Executive Officer from ACMC, and that will be at 4 o'clock here. And that's it, or I get to do this.